I'm finally here with a 7700X video. This has been a long time in the making. These CPUs were released ages ago, and I've just not tested it because the parts were so expensive. The CPU is expensive, the motherboard's crazy expensive, and the RAM, DDR5 RAM was not in a good place. So I put it off and off and off, but probably that was a mistake, as you're about to see when we get into the testing. So for testing, a few things to talk about. First of all, as always, CPU testing, we're doing it 1080p to remove the GPU bottleneck as much as possible. That actually was slightly problematic for the 3080, which is what I've tested all of these results with. I had to employ the 4080 at one stage because, yeah, I'll explain that in a minute. Good stuff from this CPU, that's for sure. We've got a problem in terms of the fact that Siege of Orison is running with all of the testing on 3.17.5. So really what you're seeing here are slammed servers for the 7700X results that are basically almost worst case scenario with an event running at the same time, which doesn't directly impact your client performance, but we know that the busier the servers are, it does have an indirect impact on your client performance. So that's worth saying as well. And obviously I've mentioned there, this is 3.17.5, and all of my previous CPU data was on 3.17.4. So thanks CIG for that. I've not gone through and retested everything on 3.17.5. I just don't have the time for that. But from CIG's own explanations, it's basically the same patch. They've just changed some items. We've obviously got the memory DDR5, got some 6000 CL36 stuff, not the fastest but pretty quick. And then the motherboard is an Asus X670E Plus, whatever that means. Cost me £330, an absolutely outrageous amount of money for a motherboard, but it's got some PCIe Gen 5 capabilities which may be useful for testing down the line. So let's get into some testing. First of all, let's start with Louisville, as I always do, and this is some interesting testing. As always, I've done loads and loads of runs, 20 runs of each, just to average out all the variances between the different ones. And as you'll see here, we've got a new CPU champion. Now, this might not look like a big jump in performance, but look at those 1% lows. It is actually quite a significant boost in performance. And as I said before, this is an example of actually the 3080 that I've tested this with being bottlenecked. And so these results don't even show the full capabilities of the 7700X. So I did some testing with the 4080, basically swapped the cards out, and we can see here a bit more of a boost. It's not much, but there's a little bit of extra kind of power that you can get out of the 7700X when it's not bottlenecked by the 3080. Overall, it's an impressive result. My original guess when I heard about these CPUs was that they just weren't going to be able to outperform the 5800X 3D without the 3D V-cache. And so obviously we'll talk about this a bit at the end, but with the 3D V-cache versions of these new AM5 chips coming, I'm really excited to see how they can perform, because this already smashes past the 5800X 3D and it's not even got any of the V-cache. So let's move on to the next one. It's the same story in ArcCorp, this run that I've got where I go through the city now. Probably an even bigger performance boost here. Really, really impressive numbers, and we're CPU bottleneck the whole way around here, so we are seeing good scaling here of actually what's going on with these CPUs, and it just is a really impressive result. Next, we're in space, and we're not learning much from this, but we're not actually beating out the 5800X 3D in this one. Whether that's the V-cache or I'm not exactly sure why, but either way, those results are outrageous, and you'd have to have a very high refresh rate monitor to even notice any of that difference. And then in quantum travel, we are GPU bottlenecked by the 3080 with those top CPUs, and that's why they're all performing the same, even at 1080p. So at some point, I'll go in with the 4080 and retest those just to see how exactly they will scale past that GPU bottleneck. Next, on the Orison Rooftop with the medium cloud, so we're not GPU bottlenecked at all here, we're all on the CPU. You see a good result again, a victory again for the 7700X, and you've got to remember with this testing that Siege Orison was going on right next to this in all of the servers, and they're all really busy. So you might see better performance on a quieter day with less, with no dynamic events going on. But for now, as a worst case scenario, it's still winning. So it's all good stuff from this CPU. And then finally, we'll finish off with the render scene that I've been testing. So this scene looks out across Orison, down kind of on the ground level, and it's really intense. And as you'll see here, the 5800X 3D in the past is being beaten by both the Intel chips, but the 7700X is now back at the top of the tree. So it's just a really impressive CPU all around. So we have a new champion for Star Citizen CPUs, but I would not be going out and buying one of these anytime soon, or maybe never. AMD are about to replace these as their high-end gaming models with the X3D versions of these chips. So if you're not aware, there are CPUs coming out which will have level 3 cache, this unified cache that is called 3DV cache, and it basically massively impacts performance in lots of games, but in Star Citizen especially, it seems to make a huge difference. So these CPUs, the 7700X, all the testing today would apply to the 7600X and the 7900X and even the non-X versions. They're all going to be great for Star Citizen, but they're going to be, I would imagine, trounced by the X3D versions. So I will be testing one of those as soon as they come out. I'm not going to wait around. Now I've got the motherboard and the RAM, I'll be getting one hopefully on launch day and then giving you those results of that testing. But I think if you're looking to buy a system right now, just hold off, just wait. It's a really, I think we're saying we're guaranteed to get them in February. At what point we don't know yet, but they're going to be the ones to go for. And again, with AMD, you get the longevity of these motherboards. They're not just going to be supported for probably one more generation of CPUs. We'll probably get 2, maybe even 3 more generations of their CPUs that will work in these motherboards, which is just a real bonus over the Intel situation where now with the 13th gen you're stuck with what you've got. I'm going to do some follow-up testing in terms of, we've got some RAM testing to do with these. I've done a bit of VBS testing already, and there's a few other things, overclocking as well, that I can do. So I'll put some more videos out in the next few weeks with more bits and bobs in. But in general, these are great CPUs, but you just shouldn't buy one. If you like this performance-based look at Star Citizen, subscribe, like this video as well. Thank you so much to the members. Become a member if you want to support with money. That's amazing. Thank you also to the people who did super thanks in the comments of some of these videos before to put money towards these parts. That's amazing as well. Come and join the Discord where people talk about Star Citizen parts and performance and can help you out with your PC needs. And that is enough of this one. I'll see you soon. Bye.